I've talked about how we need to see a microphone as a friend. It can bring less strain on the voice. Of course, it brings clarity because people can hear, but you do need electricity. When we were at the YWAM Together in Kansas City, it rained hard one of those days, and the generator that was running all of the sound went down. And this was a tent that had 3,000-4,000 people in it, and the electricity went down. And I was really impressed because they suddenly brought out these other speakers connected to a handheld mic, and they were able to continue the meeting. You know, there's no media lights, but they're able to keep talking. So that was very clever of them. But no electricity, it's over. So these things are, of course, all part of the deal. The microphone, at least in days gone past, would tie you down. Of course, now we have the wireless handheld mic. But if it has a cord or a cable, especially this situation, you know, we don't see this so much these days. But occasionally you have a podium and the microphone is nailed to the podium and you're stuck behind it. At least someone needs to do sound checks to get the sound right. And it is easy to misuse a handheld mic if you are playing with a cable or what have you. So just things to watch. Don't play with the cord. The suggestion is keep the microphone 3 inches from your mouth, but I really don't think it matters too much. I think resting it can be helpful because then you know where it is and the sound could be set like that. If you've got a beard, you don't want to hear, you know. But the thing is to not do what I did. So do what I say, not what I did. Try and keep it from the same distance from your mouth. And then, of course, there's different options. You get the fixed mic, you get the the microphone stand, you get the handheld mic, the lapel mic, and then the very best is these wireless things. Like this is great, you know. You just this kind of microphone, and technology is changing. More and more there's this thing that goes around your ear and it goes down the back, and you know, this pack, and those things are really great. So microphone's a friend, use it. Talk about question and answer times. If you're in a teaching situation, this doesn't happen in a preaching situation very much. I guess it could, but it usually doesn't. In a teaching situation, it can be good to just handle questions well. Now, if you're in a large meeting hall, repeating the question is really helpful. In a smaller class, that isn't necessary. But in a bigger meeting hall, because people may not hear the question, repeating the question can be helpful, because in repeating it, you're making sure you know what the question is, and it isn't always clear. Don't take too long to answer it, which is one of my great failings, because often things lead to other things. But try not to take too long. Be fair to other questioners. That's why you don't take too long. If there's 10 minutes for questions, you want to give other people an opportunity rather than just one person. It's so easy to get sidetracked. Only do that if it's really important. And questions actually show you how people have understood. I was so discouraged. This is one of my great moments of discouragement. I was at a Harpington base on the BCC, they have a new BCC there, and I was asked to speak on the Song of Solomon. And the way I approach it is I let the students understand the different approaches. And there's the approach of the typological approach, where it's Christ and the church. And then there's a dramatic approach, where we see a kind of a written drama or a sung drama. And then there's the the more literal approach of poems, of love and marriage, these different approaches. And I went through them all and I talked about them and all this. At the very end, just when I was coming to a conclusion, a student put his hand up and he said, do you believe that the Song of Solomon could be like a picture of Christ in the church? And I thought, but I spent all that time talking about that. Didn't you get it? And it was like, oh, what's gone wrong with that, And so I said, yes, I think it could, and I talked about that, but whatever it was, he didn't get it, which was a great shame. So I'm glad he asked the question. So questions do show you how people have understood what you said. Try not to respond in an insecure way, because sometimes questions can be attacks. The question comes out not out of a genuine question, but out of something other than that. Do listen to the question well. I've said already in answering, it's good to summarize the question. If it's appropriate, you can ask others what they think, and that begins to generate a little bit of a discussion, and that can be really helpful. In a bigger audience, you can give positive body language by moving towards the question asker. It's just a little thing that is affirming them, because you're giving them your attention. Now, you can be in a situation where someone asks a question and you feel that the question has not come from a good spirit. You can feel that maybe there's a little bit of animosity or something, and when you answer the question, you don't want them to come back with another question, because it's not going to be helpful. You have to make these decisions as leading the group. And one way you can help with that is when you finish, you don't look back at them. You look on to other people. Normally, when I've answered a question, I like to look at the person. Has that answered your question? But a little technique really is you don't look at them. You look for another question. It also can be helpful. Sometimes people can ask a question, but they're not actually asking a question. They want to say what they think. And the question is not, it can be too long. And if that happens, one thing you can do is to start nodding and saying yes, yes, right, yes. Try and stop them. When you have a large meeting, you want to have that meeting that is going to serve everybody. And you're the only one who can make a difference because you're at the front. And so you're trying to arrange things to serve everybody. If you have a question, someone asks a really interesting question, you can find that all of a sudden people are talking about that question in little groups. So beware of that, and try and call people back together, and again hold things together. Don't get into arguments. What you do is you express what you feel the answer is to that question. If there's a need for more discussion, you can say, why don't we talk about this together afterwards? Let's go into it deeper. You have to kind of make these decisions, and you're thinking about everybody in the class when you do that. Don't be afraid to say you don't know. You don't have to be the Bible answer man, Google. Don't have to be that person. To say, I'm not sure. To say, I haven't really thought about that. That's an okay answer. And you'll find people actually respect you if you don't have to know everything. And so do be aware of people that would ask questions when they're really wanting to make their own statement. And that's often not the place or the time for them to do that. There will be other times and places. So just be aware of those things. So questions are a really good part of the teaching thing, so that people can have clarity. Okay? I've got here what I called a little extra. In many ways I've finished the communication, different areas of that, but something that Jean used to do with the communications core course, she used to do two things. Firstly, making an announcement. How many of you know that people can make an announcement very badly? Because this is the communications core course, we don't want any of you to do that ever again from this point onwards, if you have. I don't know if you have. When you're making an announcement, think through the main points. And of course there's different levels. There's just the quick announcement after class, you know, okay. But there's announcements that are particularly important. There's going to be a barbecue for the whole base type announcement. There's going to be a baby shower, you know, these different things. Think through the main points, so you're not rambling. What is it that people need to know? Think through those. So just this is what they need to know. Make sure you can be heard. It comes back to the same thing. So often, I remember we'd be in the dining room, everybody's talking, and someone would stand up and quick, shh. And before everybody's quiet, they've given their announcement. And half the people haven't heard it. Make sure you can be heard and stand in the place where you can be seen. Go out to the front or go somewhere where people can see you. Make sure they're listening and then get on with the announcement. Make sure you have people's attention. Sometimes you need to give a context of an announcement. You may be in a particular group and you say quite simply, so-and-so is expecting their baby such and such a time, we're going to have a baby shower. And then it doesn't affect you guys, we don't want you to come. You women come. And you know, and you give the details of the announcement. And so there's a little bit of context of the announcement. Visual aids can help. Yeah, they can, but mostly you don't need visual aids. Repeat the main points. Okay? Just real quick, real concise. Get people's attention, know what you want to say, give it, and sit down. Most announcements don't need to be preached. Get the preacher up there, they want to preach it. But, you know, we don't need to preach it, just give the announcement. And the last thing is making an introduction. Introducing a person. This might be a guest speaker, but it can also be you're in a meeting and you have your parents and you want to introduce your parents, or you want to introduce a friend. And this too can be done well or it can be done badly. And it's an element of communication. And it's worth thinking. The goal is, firstly, you want to show honour to that person. And secondly, if it's a guest speaker, you want to give the people a context to who the speaker is. Or if it's a friend, who they are and how they're connected to you. Or if it's your parents, a little bit about who they are. And so what we're wanting to do is show honour to these people and give that context. Again, be heard and stand where you can be seen. Now if it's a meeting, of course you'll be at the front, you're introducing the guest speaker. But other contexts, it may be a dining room, or you may be at the end of a meeting, you're You know, who are our guests? Let's welcome them. You want to stand up, not just sit down and say, it's my mum and dad. You know, stand up, get them to stand, and honour them. So be heard and seen. Think through what people need to know. What is it people need to know about this person? One of the things we need not to do is flatter people and get carried away with superlatives. What I mean by that is you're introducing someone and you're saying, this is the most amazing person in the whole world, they're the most anointed speaker I've ever heard, they're awesome, they're wonderful, and you come out and no one is that good. See? Now, you can honour them in a way that is not extreme. You can say things that are true and honourable without getting carried away with all these different things.